Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Uh, so, you caught me in my natural environment. I'm home working Friday. This has been a long week. Had a really exciting meeting last night with the program's advisory board. Um, really exciting stuff coming from that. Uh, Anyhow, I've been a little late posting this because I've been busy getting ready for that meeting. Uh, Anyhow, exciting stuff to come. Just keep your eye on your email. So as things roll out, I hope to facilitate some conversations, probably using some web conferencing just to let everybody know some of the stuff that's going on. Anyhow, in summary of week 5, I'm sitting here with my coffee. I drink a lot of it, um, I only read the reports that say that coffee is really good for you. So I avoid the ones that say it's bad. Forgive me as I just kind of hop through some of the exercises, but I just wanted to share some thoughts. So the Bluebird Care case, I thought that was just a fun case. Everyone, I thought, really did a nice job of kind of diagnosing and dissecting and diagnosing a case. I think all of us could relate to pieces or part of it. As For those of us who have only worked a few years, and those of us like me who have worked for like decades. Um, what I wanted to hit on, and I'm trying to follow my notes as I go here, is I was looking for you to interject your own experiences or learning outside of the chapter into your response to get the full point. So a few of you did that, not as many as I had hoped, but again, it's unfortunate that we divide programs into courses about topic areas, and it's unfortunate within courses that we divide content again by modules or weekly, because you and I both know that that's not how life works, that we have to have this ability to kind of interrelate all of this stuff together. And that's why we have that leadership development, personal leadership development theory, leadership theory exercise is truly to try to get you to incorporate all of this stuff together. So I was looking for that. A few of you got it, some of you didn't. So just so you know, that's what I was looking for. I'd like to talk just a little bit more about our beloved Belinda from the case. All of us have had our Belindas in the workplace. I used to work with an entire team of Belindas, male and female Belindas. And as a leader, you feel beat up a lot working with the Belinda types. However, it is really, really important that we don't get in the habit of dismissing people who don't agree with us. So many times people with thinking preferences or people who are very good at logic, they offer value to an organization through their critical thinking. And unless it's tempered with an ability to also comment on the positive, you can kind of overly feel like they're being extra critical of everything you do, the organization does, and you kind of take it a little bit personal. And without knowing it, you tend to avoid them, label them as negative, when really in reality what they're doing is giving you the best of their ability, their thinking skills. So you really want to be cautious not to label people like Belinda, though you can sense that there's something going on within you that you're responding or reacting to the negativity. However, her suggestion with regards to the weekend work schedule could be the answer to the turnover problems that Bluebird is experiencing. Anyhow, just a warning that you want to be cautious with with labeling people negative, because it could be that is the answer. So yeah, be cautious on that. I also wanted to share with you the author's response to the case, to this final question in the case. Sorry, just like having some issues this morning. So the author wrote in response to this final question that he would suggest that Robin needs to create a 5-year plan. The case study makes it appear that Robin is opposed or slow to accept change, but change has taken place in the organization. With this in mind, if she is taking charge of the organization growth through a structured plan, then she may not feel as much trepidation towards the change. She also needs to be more challenged more as a leader by her team and management, and manage the interactions herself. She has surrounded herself with followers, but she also needs to hire people in the future who can move the organization to new heights. And that rarely happens with status quo thinking. So tying this case in with the culture content that we participated in this week would reinforce this concept of humble inquiry, where Robin could have sat with these people, including Belinda's, and really inquired as to, why things are done the way they're done, and really tried to understand what is the existing culture. Once she understands the existing culture, then she has the opportunity to influence it. And again, she was probably falling into the trap by labeling Belinda a bully, by looking at negative feedback as resistance to herself, where, as I just talked about, it could be that was Belinda's best work in giving her feedback on how to improve the turnover. So also, when looking at teamwork through the psychological type lens that we've kind of been weaving through this whole class, most leaders and most people tend to surround themselves with people who are a lot like themselves. The comments are usually a lot about how it's smooth, conversation was easy, we all got along, we got a lot done. So, and I understand that. I have friends who are like me, and when we get together, we just have a blast. I mean, things are easy and smooth, and there's no resistance or stress. So, and if that's the goal of the team, then, hallelujah. But typically, that's not why you put together teams. You put together teams for the purposes of bringing diverse opinions and perspectives to a situation that needs to be resolved. And the understanding in the workplace today is that we can achieve greater things by looking at solutions from diverse perspectives. So in order to do that, you have to have a commitment to pull together diverse teams. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, in my past organization, I had a team of people that were extremely diverse. And after every meeting, I would go back to my office and I would just be seriously depressed, almost in tears, because of the conflict that went on in these team meetings. It took me quite a while to figure out how to control or manage that interaction. And as a result of that, I came up with a list of ground rules that I presented to the team on how we were going to get along and be a little bit more respectful in our interactions. And after that point, meetings weren't quite so difficult to get through. But for someone like me who really does not like conflict, I like everybody to get along and be happy. Those meetings were somewhat difficult. On the other hand, I would run into people who are at these meetings and they would say, "Man, what a productive meeting." And I'd be like, seriously, I thought you were going to jump over the table and kill each other. So again, it was all about perspectives. But long story short, I realized the power of diverse teams, and we truly achieved things that I could have never achieved on my own ever, or neither one of those people could have achieved without the other. So we actually got to some pretty incredible stuff. And then once as a leader, I was able to really work on creating an environment that had rules to it, so that I just controlled some of the interactions more. I was able to get through the meeting without feeling beat up. So and they felt engaged in it. So anyhow, I hope that helps. So the next discussion question was on dysfunctional teams. Again, I thought for the most part, everybody did a nice job. I liked the additional thoughts that you were pulling into this about looking for, about talking about the vulnerability of leadership and looking for signs of burnout. Such a huge issue, not just in healthcare, but even more so than it has been in the past. That there is heavy responsibilities and weights placed on people, and it's important that leaders and even members of the team watch each other and really realize that the person sitting across the table from you is a human being, and we need to kind of keep our eye on people. So it is very difficult to treat patients and coworkers and subordinates holistically when you're not being treated holistic. But again, in many cases, you're in kind of that sandwich position where you report to others and others report to you. And so that really makes that middle management position so incredibly difficult because, there might not be a lot of good management or leadership happening above you, but the buck stops on you. So, I also want to let you know I'm posting another article from Harvard Business Review called "Stop Wasting Money on Team Building." I read this and thought, wow, this is pretty good stuff. So a lot of you pointed to this idea of having team development activities, and not that I'm against those. I do like team development. Actually, to be brutally honest, I don't. It's like, well, let's go spend a week at a retreat and sing Kumbaya and stuff like that. Maybe I'm getting old and cynical, but I just want to do my work and be able to go home, to be honest. So though I think, potlucks and that kind of junk they have a place. But to me, they're kind of like Band-Aids. And unless you really have some solid stuff going on, trying to throw a potluck in isn't going to fix anything. So I just want to read the final paragraph of this article and hope it inspires you to read it. It's short, doesn't take long. But the final conclusion of this research study that came out of this organization called Mars, they wrote, strong relationships and trust do matter to collaboration, but they are not the starting point. They are the outcome of dedicated people striving together. Connecting collaboration to the motives of success-minded team members is what unlocks productivity and teamwork. So they, through a lot of work that they did through questionnaires and looking at some performance reviews, and actually thousands of them, they came down to creating a framework on how to ensure teams work. And they started with, the framework actually involves two questions. One is, why is their collaboration essential to achieving business results? So, or in more plain everyday language, why is your working together as a team more value than just some of the individual efforts? So I think if you really want teams to work, you really have to boil it down to so why? What is the purpose of this team? Why are we approaching this from a team perspective instead of just assigning an individual to do it? And until you can answer that question, you really need to question, is the team the right approach? So oftentimes I think people just throw teams on it, and there's really no clear understanding of why are we working on this as a team. Similar, uh, so programs like academic programs strive for creating diversity within student groups. So I have to report numbers of diverse students in the program based on ethnicity and race. Uh, and it's like, okay, well, I'm fine with reporting that, but why? So why is a program better if we have a certain number of African Americans and a number of people with, different backgrounds? What's the benefit of it? So and this has been my perspective for a while, that I really haven't had a chance to do much about it, but until faculty and students are committed to making the curriculum different because of this diverse student group, then so what? If we bring in this diverse group of students and they participate, all students participate in the same discussions under a same understanding that they're to report on the book and such and so. But if we're not engaging them to share their perspectives based on their diversity, then what's the point of having diverse students in a class or a program or a training group or a trip or anything? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I really value this article in that it really came down to saying, what is the purpose of the teamwork? And if you can't answer that, then don't use a team, just assign it to individuals. And the second question is, which specific task would require collaboration to deliver the results? So, and they said, go through what are the list of projects that should be handled by individuals and those that should be delivered by collaboration, and create accountability structures around each of those to make sure that they're managed and delivered on time and with results. So anyhow, I'll just include the link on it. So again, I'm not saying that having potlucks and birthday of the month lunches and all that kind of stuff isn't fun, and it is, but only when groups know that the work they're doing is real. So if you're going to avoid doing real work that really kind of supports purpose and people's needs for achievements in the workplace and success, if you're going to avoid that and just paste on top of it this pretty development stuff, you're going to get a lot of cynical responses. So anyhow, just my perspective. So when it comes to analyzing culture, that was discussion question 18. Again, this was interesting. So for the most part, I got the sense, honestly, that most of you didn't watch the whole video or both videos. And I'll be the first to admit, Edward Schein is not super engaging video content material, but what he has to say is just, in my opinion, dead on. So many of you kind of commented on how you didn't have really the ability to do much with what he was talking about because you're not in these big L positions, and that any kind of real change was outside of your scope of influence. And I wanted to comment that I could not disagree more. So I think what we have to learn to do is to really understand where our scope of influence can be made, and again, really keeping in mind the difference between big L's and little L's. Personally, I really have no little interest, I should say, in becoming a big L. My son is always like, well, Mom, when are you going to be the president of the university? Or when are you going to be the dean? And it's like, you know what? I really don't know if that's what I want. I really enjoy leading at this level of position because I get to stay engaged with students and do what I believe to be super important work that that I think utilizes my skills and abilities and passions the best. I think moving up, I'm not saying that I couldn't do it, and maybe someday I'll have a desire to do it, but right now it's like, I don't know that I want those big L's. So right now I'm content being a little L, or maybe like in between a little and a big, whatever that might be. So, but anyhow, so I think you just have to really look and see. I might not be able to influence all of our IT, but I can influence within my scope of practice, which was within this small program and within the courses that I teach. So keep that in mind. Also, even if you are a big L, you might think that your scope of influence is over the entire university, but unless you build some really elaborate assessment and evaluation structures, you really don't know what people are doing outside of who you hang around with most days. So that really kind of challenges that your sphere of influence is smaller than you think. So I really like Shine's kind of discussion about the hierarchical power structures that many of us, I still believe, are influenced by this "I'm the boss of you" kind of mentality. I read that a lot in your responses, and it just honestly, it just makes me almost sick to read that, because that is so out of date. These people have not got the memo yet, and I'm waiting for this change to come. And I hope that you and myself and people that come out of this program can begin to change that. But he talked about this, that in this knowledge industry we work in now, that it requires a highly distributed process or processes. So it's not about me telling you what to do, but it's more about me orchestrating this system of work that happens, that it takes everybody touching the product or the service. So whether it's healthcare delivery or pharmaceuticals or accounting practices or whatever you do, it's everybody playing a role in this to get it out the door to the consumer. So it's more about these highly distributed processes, and that managers today need to be more orchestrators and creators of relationships to allow these processes to happen. So anyhow, so again, I would just really encourage you to work within the sphere of influence that you have. And if you can't do that at work, then look outside of work and look at, many of you talked about your church or faith organizations, various clubs and your families. Start practicing these ideas and concepts in those groups. Eventually, you'll start seeing results, and results start to catch people's eye, and that's how jobs are achieved, by being able to talk about how you achieve results. So, anyhow, I've talked a little bit about the humble inquiry. Again, I was really blown away by Shine's comment that 90% of behavior is driven by cultural rules and norms. So if you're really out to create a new culture, so several of you pointed that you can't change a culture, but you can begin to create a new culture. You have to start in this process of humble inquiry, where you're sitting down, you're taking the power structures out, you're really putting yourself at the same level of everybody. And you're, in a very curious way, with all honesty and humility, trying to understand why people do things the way they do them. Once you get an understanding of that, then you understand what the real culture is, which could be very close to what you want it to be or what you think it is, or it can be a complete difference. And again, culture happens in organizations, and subcultures happen in units or departments or professions. I love that one of you addressed, I think it was Lorraine, addressed a subculture of nurses, I believe. So your sphere of influence can be at different levels within an organization. So once you understand it, you can begin to impact it. So finally, I just wanted to mention that a really good friend of mine always says if you really want to understand someone's behavior, look at the incentives. So if something's going on in your home, in your life groups associated to your faith or church group, work, what have you, look at the incentives that are reinforcing that behavior. So if you don't like what you're seeing, then you have to learn to change the incentive. So what is incentivizing people to behave that way? So anyhow, very interesting stuff. So finally, we had the discussion board, not discussion board, Dropbox assignment that included the fellowship and team leadership assessments. Again, I thought that it was really nice work, and that kind of inspired me to remove the reflection assignment, because a couple of you commented in my little short survey that you feel like you're reflecting a little too much, which I do get. That makes sense. So I got rid of it. Actually, I just gave everybody the point. So I was looking or kind of hoping to see more integration of these concepts together, that followership does really embrace teamwork. So but most of you kind of kept them separate. So I would just encourage you to kind of think about how do these concepts all fit together, because ultimately you're going to go out and have a leadership philosophy, a way that you practice, and it has to kind of fit together. Otherwise, you look a bit schizophrenic. So anyhow, so sorry for my rambling. So it's been a rather crazy week. So I have one more week. I have week 6 to look at, and then we're in the final stretch, week 7. So these are fairly light weeks, but the content is extremely intense. I think we're addressing topics that are kind of like where the future is at when we're looking at leadership. So I really encourage you to stay engaged. I've kind of seen kind of a drop off of engagement, which makes me kind of concerned. So please try to hang in there. We're so close to the end. Just remember this Sunday. So that is, let me look at my calendar because I can't remember. The 7th. You do not need to submit week 6 a weekly reflection. I mean, if you want to, go for it. I'll look at it. But I do expect on the final week. So the class ends on the 15th, so 14th or 15th, I can't remember where the due date is, but so that final week, I will look for a final reflection exercise, and I would like you to address, maybe more holistic, your final experiences in these final 3 weeks, and then maybe even connect them to the earlier work too. So anyhow, have a fantastic weekend. It looks like it's going to be a nice one here in the Rochester area. So get outside when you can. Hold on. We're close to the end. I've been having a blast, so I hope you are too. So take care. If I can do anything, just scream. I'm here. Take care. Bye.